I found a hidden letter that exposed my family's secrets. The envelope had my name and a date no one could explain. I found it wedged behind a loose board in my mother's attic, where sun-bleached boxes smelled like old lemons and tape. I'm Evan, 30, the family's calm one. EMT by day, fixer of jammed windows and frayed tempers by night. Our story has always been neat. My father died when I was 2, Uncle Victor stepped up, and my mother Ruth kept our small house by teaching piano and saving every receipt. We don't do drama, Ruth says. We do chores. The envelope fought me, fibers clinging like secrets. Heavy cream stock, black fountain pen script, my first and last name in a hand I didn't recognize, and a postmark stamped April 14th, 1995 from a town 2 counties over where we never lived. The flap bore a notary embosser, shallow but real. My stomach did that elevator drop I get when a monitor flatlines for a beat. I rubbed the raised seal. Not a party trick. I held it to the attic bulb. Through the paper, I saw a darker rectangle. Another slip inside. Maybe a photo or bank stub. The glue cracked with a soft surrender. Inside, a single-page letter folded into thirds, an index card with a safe deposit box key number, BX 312, and a small receipt from Hearth Federal Bank, line-itemed. Rental renewal, box 312, 1 year, $38.00, paid in cash. On the letterhead, a name, Ruth Caro, my mother's maiden name, and the salutation, Dear Evan, for your 18th birthday. If I cannot speak, open this. I read the first line and heard the house change. 4 joists answered back. Dust hung at attention. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about a trinket. It was a correction. It said, the story they gave you is not the story that happened. I checked the date again. I checked the notary seal again. I checked my breathing, shallow, then slow. When I folded the page, a faint perfume lifted, something powdery, old, like drawers holding their breath. I snapped a photo and slid the key into my pocket, where it felt heavier than keys should feel. Downstairs, my mother asked if I'd found the Christmas lights. I said yes and hid the letter under my shirt. I stepped onto the ladder with the key burning like a match. I grew up on a script so tidy it could pass inspection. Ruth kept photo albums labeled by season, not year, autumn walks, snow days, as if time should behave itself. My father was the bright chapter that closed early. Uncle Victor appeared in the next one wearing expensive cologne and a grin that photographed well. He paid for school shoes without waiting to be asked, and he liked to say, family is a ledger. You keep it balanced. As a kid, I thought that meant fairness. As a teenager, I learned it meant favors accrue interest. Ruth's hands always looked tired, even when she smiled. She taught scales in our living room while a metronome ticked out a second economy. After lessons, she would smooth the edges of the bills and put them into envelopes by purpose. Lights, gas, groceries. That ritual felt like prayer. On birthdays, Victor would arrive with a gift that hummed. New console, new laptop, and say, let the boy have something nice, Ruth. She'd thank him, then scrub the kitchen as if gratitude made a mess. Hairline cracks were small. A family tree framed above the piano had a branch smudged where eraser marks showed through the paper. At Christmas one year, Lena asked why a photo of our mother's wedding had no groom's face. Ruth laughed and said the camera jammed. Victor changed the subject to stocks. When I applied for the EMT program, he smiled like I'd walked into a quaint museum. Brave, he said, in a tone that meant small. I learned to let his words pass like weather and not soak in. Last month, I noticed a photo missing from the spine of an album, the one where 5-year-old me clings to Ruth on a courthouse step. I assumed it slipped loose. Later, I found a faint rectangle of sunfade where it used to be. The gap felt curated. 2 days after that, a man I didn't know nodded to me outside the house and asked, is the music teacher home? He called Ruth Ms. Caro, as if the older name fit the present. Ruth started labeling new bins in the attic with numbers rather than words. Numbers tell a story if you learn the language. I turned one bin, and a yellowed corner of stationery peeked out like a held breath. I spent the afternoon pretending to sort winter coats while the attic worked me like a lie detector. Dates began arguing with each other. A postcard from a fair said 1994 in Lena's hand, but the back of its photo had developed 1992. A ledger inside a shoebox had entries for a storage unit that I had never seen us use. 7 payments across 3 years. always in cash, always just before holidays. When I asked Ruth if we still had the old bassinet, she said no, we gave it away. Later I found the receipt for refinishing it 4 summers ago. Tiny contradictions set my pulse to a metronome I didn't control. Downstairs, the piano metronome ticked while Ruth taught Fur Elise to a child who yawned rhythmically. I stared at the attic beam where the board had been loose. Finger marks in the dust made a pattern that matched none of ours. Longer span, stronger pressure. I took photos. EMT training teaches you to document scene details so you won't confuse adrenaline with memory later. I documented like a medic on call. Lena arrived with flowers and a worry line. You look pale, she said. Are you skipping meals? Just moving boxes, I said. She scanned my face for a fight, and then scanned the room for a way to avoid it. She has 2 speeds, soothe or flee. Uncle Victor's coming by, she added. Be nice. On the kitchen counter, an envelope addressed in Victor's bold slant lay half open. Inside was a check memoed storage. He'd written the amount in full words, like someone who loves seeing his ink make rules. Ruth caught me looking and tidied it into a drawer. He helps, she said, and that was supposed to be the end of the sentence. At dinner, Victor toasted family continuity with a wine I couldn't pronounce and asked about my shifts in a voice that implied a hobby. When I asked why the storage line items existed, he smiled like a dentist. Sometimes, he said, we keep what we cannot display. Like what? I said. He patted my shoulder as if I'd asked how to change a tire. After dishes, I checked the attic again. The board now sat flush, as if someone pressed it back. I took the letter to my childhood desk like contraband and photographed it under the lamp. The stationery had a decal edge and watermarked lines. Hearth and pine, bond 25% cotton. Ink bled slightly at the descenders, which means a fountain pen, not a ballpoint. The notary seal read Marla J. Duarte, Notary Public, Lick number 441089, County of Dunwell, and the expiration date fit the postmark. No hobbyist could fake that casually. The handwriting stacked polite and tight, rightward slant, high T-bars, a practiced, anxious mind. I measured the envelope where, corner crush, faint oil halo where a thumb would rest. My EMT brain likes patterns. All the patterns said this was not theatrical. Dear Evan, it began, for your 18th birthday. If I cannot speak, open this. Inside the small box you will find my first promise to you. Listen to Aunt May. She remembers the winter of 1991 when everything was mislabeled. Forgive me for the labels. The bottom carried a clipped signature I had only ever seen on a marriage license photocopy. Ruth Caro. Aunt May lives across town with a backyard of tomatoes and opinions. She answers calls from me on the first ring. Sweetheart, she said, when I asked about 1991, that was the winter your mother started sleeping with the light on. She didn't elaborate. May I bring you something? I asked. Bring yourself, she said, and bring whatever you think you shouldn't. The index card with the key number had a bank logo that looked like a lighthouse. I searched and found one branch left, tucked between a bakery and a florist. Online records said safe deposit access required 2 forms of ID and a signature match. The receipt included a teller number, 317. I took a photo of that too. Lena texted to ask if I could help pick out paint colors for her apartment. I typed that I was busy and felt guilt move in behind my ribs. I copied the letter twice, once in color, once black and white, and placed the original in a Ziploc like a fragile bone. I called the bank for hours and was told to visit in person. I set my alarm for early and hid the key in a sock behind the radiator. At dawn, I'd visit the bank and carry the key in silence. Aunt May met me on her porch with 2 mugs and a warning. No theatrics, F. Truth already plays loud. Her living room smelled like laundry and basil. I laid out the envelope, the receipt, the key card. She read slowly, lips moving as if each word had to get past customs. When she finished, she set one finger on the date. That spring, she said quietly, we learned that what you hide grows teeth. She wouldn't explain yet. Set your rules, she added. No accusations without timestamps. No midnight calls you'll regret in the morning. Make copies like you expect rain. I scanned the letter with her old flatbed and saved it to a flash drive labeled coupons, then to an encrypted drive labeled something boring, winter recipes. I wrote a list in block letters. Who knew? What's provable? Who benefits? May nodded like a metronome. And one more, she said. What will the truth cost you? Maybe the story of US, I said. She squeezed my wrist and let go. On the back porch, she pointed to a cracked planter. Things break in interesting places, she said. Your mother is good and also human. Your uncle is useful and also hungry. Hold both truths, or you'll pick the wrong battlefield. She took the key, examined the cut pattern, and handed it back. Victor likes boxes, she said. He thinks paper obeys him. I asked if the letter meant adoption, or an accident, or money. It means winter, she said, and labels that stuck where they shouldn't. She finally told me the memory she'd been guarding. A hospital trip in January 1991, a name on a bassinet tag that didn't match any of ours, a nurse who apologized like a hostage. I thought it was grief, she said. I see now it could be paperwork. Before I left, she packed me leftovers and a stack of legal pads. Write like a clerk, not a poet, she said, and eat dinner like it matters. I walked to my car feeling the odd comfort of orders. I backed up everything again and printed 2 clean copies. Victor's black sedan paused at the stop sign 1 beat too long. The bank sat between a bakery and a florist like a polite secret. Inside, frosted glass and a little brass ship's bell felt ceremonial. I presented 2 IDs and the key. The clerk, teller 317, nameplate N. Reyes, checked a signature card and frowned at the year. This box has been paid through repeatedly, she said, but last accessed 19 years ago. The card bore a looping R. Caro that matched the salutation's hand, down to the high T-bars. Reyes logged my visit and escorted me to a gray room with a table that remembered every ring of every keeper who had trembled here. Box 312 slid out like a drawer in a museum. Inside, a manila folder, a thin notebook with a cracked spine, and a small envelope addressed in the same careful script, for Evan. The notebook's first page listed 3 names with dates and codes. Duarte, Notary 441089. Barrett, County Clerk 09-1132. Hearth Federal Routing Number 0670043. Someone had wanted me to verify, not just believe. The manila folder held photocopies of a hospital bracelet's log from January 1991, with columns for mother name, infant tag, and discharge initials. 2 rows carried asterisks. Next to one, a note. Ask about switch in nursery B. My hands shook, but the room stayed the same temperature. I opened the envelope addressed to me. Evan, the letter said, truth arrives like weather. When you can bear it, go to the county records and ask for a live birth correction filed March 7, 1991. Bring Aunt May. If anyone suggests forgetting, that person is not protecting you. The signature was Ruth's again, steady and apologetic. I copied everything on the bank scanner and paid for certified copies of the access logs. Reyes, sympathetic but professional, slid me a brochure on family documents and circled a number for the county archivist. I thanked her, carefully casual. Outside, the florist's doorbell rang and someone laughed. Life refused to kneel. I breathed through 4 counts and kept both hands at 10-2. I turned toward the courthouse with the folder riding shotgun. County records smelled like dust that learned manners. The clerk, Barrett, name from the notebook, had hair like steel wool and a voice that flattened lies. Live birth corrections are public, she said. Give me the date. I did. She returned with a bound volume and a microfilm reel, because the county trusts no single format. We scrolled. March 7, 1991. Correction. Mother's surname amended from Caro to Hart. Infant tag corrected. Initialing nurse. M. R. Field. Ruth's maiden name sat where it shouldn't, then moved like a chess piece across paper. The margin note read, per Administrator V. Hart, immediate processing. Victor Hart, Uncle Victor, signing as administrator. My mouth went dry in the climate-controlled air. Barrett watched me with a librarian's mercy. Happens more than you think, she said. Mostly to hide mistakes. Sometimes to hide decisions. She printed 3 certified copies and placed them in a rubber-banded stack. Keep them flat, she said, as if truth buckles easily. I asked about probate indexes around 1995. She raised an eyebrow, then shrugged and printed a page where an estate, Hart, Samuel, listed an amended heir schedule filed late. Why late? I asked. People change stories when people die, she said, returning to her coffee like it didn't matter. At the hospital, records stashed me in a side office with a view of the dumpsters. A retired nurse stopped by when Barrett texted her. Mr. Field had hands that remembered swaddling. She studied the photocopied bracelet log and pursed her lips. I remember a winter with too many administrators, she said. Labels went missing for an afternoon. A man in a suit shook my supervisor's door until hinges talked. We fixed the babies. The adults fixed the paperwork. She tapped the asterisks. These stars. That was me and Connie marking our questions without getting fired. She wrote a short statement for me. Careful, plain. Driving home, the parade of neat family photos in my mind blurred. The ledger Victor loved began to look like a stage. I tucked the certified copies beneath my seat and locked the doors. Victor's sedan waited at our curb like an RSVP to conflict. Victor poured himself a glass of our water like he owned the tap. Ruth hovered between us, wiping an already clean counter. You've been busy, Victor said, smiling as if this were a family game. Barrett from Records called to confirm some copies. How industrious. Ruth flinched. I set my folder on the table. We're done with riddles, I said. He raised his palms in the universal gesture for innocence that never means it. I laid out the correction notice, the bracelet log, and the teller receipt. Ruth's eyes filled so fast it looked like a trick. We were going to tell you, she whispered. Victor clicked his tongue. It's complicated, he said. Complexity protects people. It protected you, I said. From what? Ruth reached for my hand and stopped. Evan, you came to me on a winter morning when the nursery had lost its labels, she said. Another mother signed papers she didn't understand. Later there was a correction that made everything legal enough. I raised you. You are mine. Her voice broke on the last word and kept going. But there was another baby, and he did not stay. From the folder, I slid a photocopy I had barely let myself read. A hospital discharge note with 2 infant tags corrected the same day, and a second name, Noah. Under it, a check image from 1995. Hearth Federal Bank cashier's check made out to a woman I didn't know. Memo line storage, signed by V. Hart. Barrett's probate printout listed a late-filed heir change. The timing mirrored the check. The what assembled itself without asking permission. A concealed adoption or switch. Hush payments labeled as storage, and a will adjusted in the quiet. Why now? I asked. Why the letter, the key? Ruth shook her head. Insurance, she said. If I couldn't speak, I wanted the papers to. Victor studied the ceiling as if the light fixture might coach him. Families are complicated, he said, like a closing statement. Lena stepped in with paint swatches and stopped cold at the table. What's happening? She asked, trying to smile. Lena, your home rests on paperwork Victor built, and it's shifting. I needed a plan that wouldn't turn my mother into collateral. I called our lawyer on a number Aunt May kept taped inside a cookbook. He answered with a voice that had filed more motions than apologies. I explained the documents. Live birth correction, bracelet log, probate amendment, checks labeled as storage. He asked for scans and asked whether my goal was heat or light. Light, I said, surprising myself. We can add heat later. The lawyer sent a checklist. Authenticate the notary. Call Duarte's office. Verify the seal number. Confirm the county correction entry matches microfilm. Request copies of the cashier's check source ledger. Document chain of custody for the safe deposit contents. Who paid renewals? How often? And in what amounts? Record a call with the county clerk asking procedural questions. Some will answer if you sound like you already know. Bring Aunt May as a witness when possible. Keep Ruth out of rooms that smell like ambush. I added my own rules. I will not accuse without dates. I will not shout. I will not become my uncle's reflection. I bought a new notebook and wrote block letters like a tired cop. What I want: truth, stability for Ruth, a path for Lena that doesn't require worshiping secrecy, and, if he exists, room to find Noah without turning him into a headline. May brought sandwiches and a look that forbade despair. Direction, not speed, she said. I told Ruth I would meet Victor at a neutral place. No kitchen tables, to present options. She begged me to keep the family out of newspapers. I can't control the weather, I said. I can choose the umbrella. The lawyer recommended a meeting room at his office with a scanner already warming. Invite Lena, he said. Ask Victor to bring any storage receipts he thinks exonerate him. He won't, but the ask matters. That night, I drafted an email to Victor proposing Thursday at 3. He replied within minutes. Family should resolve family issues at home. I replied, Thursday at 3, the law office downtown, or I go to probate. Before Thursday could arrive, Victor staged his own theater. He announced a simple dinner for old times and arrived with a bottle that cost as much as our monthly electric bill. Lena tried to set a cheerful table. Ruth arranged napkins like bandages. Victor toasted gratitude and then looked at me as if cueing my lines. Evan, your work is noble, he said, his paws gilded with condescension. But families require discretion. What good is truth if it destroys the people it claims to protect? I told him I had scheduled a controlled conversation. He smiled thinly. Lawyers make money when love fails, he said. Let us not fund them. My phone buzzed under the table. Bank alert. An attempt to access box 312 denied due to key mismatch. My skin went cold. Someone had tried a duplicate or a guess. Victor saw me glance down. Everything all right? He asked, buttering his voice. After dinner, he cornered me by the sink. I made mistakes to shield your mother, he said. You're welcome. He stood close enough that his cologne replaced air. Drop this. We'll make a new ledger. I'll refinance Ruth's mortgage. I'll set Lena right. You'll have a better car by Monday. Everyone wins. Except the people who were switched into silence, I said. His eyes snapped flat. Back in the living room, he told a story to the women about a man who ruined his own life chasing paperwork. Aunt May, who had joined quietly, laughed once. That man found his brother, she said, and lived to complain about too much birthday cake. Victor shot her a look. She returned it without blinking. My phone buzzed again. The bank's security desk confirming the access attempt and noting a tall man in a navy suit had asked impatient questions about old contracts. I asked if the man gave a name. The guard said no, but the description read like a caricature of my uncle. I told Victor we were done talking in kitchens. He raised his glass. Be careful what rooms you choose, he said. Rooms have memories. That night, his storage unit email changed to something new and opaque. The lawyer's conference room had quiet carpet and a scanner that purred like a cat that ate proof. May sat by the window, knitting something tough and useful. Lena arrived pale and brave, fingers clasped so tight her knuckles went paper white. Victor walked in at 3:07 as if minutes owed him rent. He declined water, accepted the head chair, and announced he had another engagement in 20 minutes. The lawyer smiled gently, the way a surgeon smiles at a splinter. Mr. Hart, we'll be efficient, he said. We invited you to provide context. We will proceed with or without it. I slid the live birth correction, bracelet log, bank receipts, and safe deposit access records onto the table. The lawyer read each caption aloud. Dates, codes, official stamps, like a catechism. May's knitting clicked rhythm. Lena stared at the bracelet log and bit her lip. Victor's jaw performed composure. Old paper can be misleading, he said. Clerks make mistakes. We fix them. You altered a probate schedule after a late cashier's check, the lawyer said, placing the printouts in order. You funded a storage unit that held documents related to a live birth correction your signature accelerated. You attempted to access a safe deposit box the day after my client visited it. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have the right to keep doing this. Victor leaned back. You want money? He asked me softly, like a stage whisper. I will give you money. Just stop performing concern. I shook my head. I want names, I said, and I want my mother to stop living inside your edits. The lawyer placed a small handheld camera on the table, flipped the screen, and stated the date and time. This is a voluntary meeting, he said. We are offering Mr. Hart an opportunity to provide clarifying documents or withdraw from decision-making while an independent review proceeds. Victor stood to leave. May didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Sit, she said, and decades of her knowing him did the rest. He sat, finally, and said one sentence that shifted the floorboards under us all. Noah is fine, Victor said. He's married, has a daughter, and knows nothing of you. The room inhaled. Lena's hand flew to her mouth. Ruth's name felt like a bell in my throat. The lawyer kept his pen moving. Name and contact? He asked. Victor lifted a shoulder. I paid for outcomes, not reunions. The lawyer turned the scanner toward him. We've authenticated the notary who witnessed Ruth's letter, he said. We have the microfilm copy of the live birth correction. We have bank source ledgers indicating the cashier's checks were purchased via your business account and converted to cash at the branch on River Street. We have a witness statement from a nurse documenting label irregularities in nursery B the week of January 14th, 1991. Please explain your role. Victor's mask cracked at the edges. I preserved reputations, he said. Ruth was drowning. The hospital administration was sloppy. Your grandfather's estate demanded order. I created order. I kept our name clean. I ensured resources flowed to the right branches of the family tree. You think truth is a light. It's a forest fire. You'll burn your mother to make your conscience warm. Lena exhaled like she'd been underwater for years. Did you force the adoption? She asked. Did you by someone's silence? Victor steepled his fingers. I presented choices with incentives, he said. Adults made them. The lawyer summarized. Protection mixed with control. Greed baptized as legacy. We will petition probate for a review and file a request with vital records. We will also retain a search specialist to locate Noah without disturbing his life. If Mr. Hart obstructs, we'll add that to the file. Victor laughed once low. You'll make us all look ridiculous, he said. May set down her knitting. We already do, she answered. I looked at the camera and spoke to the future. We will not be edited by one man again. The lawyer also displayed a handwriting comparison. Ruth's high T-bars, rightward slant, and consistent loop heights matched across licenses, and the letter, ink chemistry aligned with 1990s Parker Quink. Victor picked up his coat and, at the door, tossed a final sentence like a match. If you push this, Victor said, I will contest every breath you take. Then he left a silence that rang. The lawyer exhaled through his nose like a man who has watched many threats dissolve on paper. He began the filings. Petition to review the amended probate schedule. Request for vital records audit. Notice to the bank preserving the safe deposit chain. And a letter to the hospital compliance office summarizing the documented label irregularities. May scheduled Ruth with a therapist who understood secrets that erode sleep. Lena texted me hearts, and then nothing for hours. Work didn't pause because my life had shifted its weight. I ran calls, chest pain at a laundromat, a fall on icy steps, a toddler with a peanut allergy whose mother cried like glass. On my breaks I read statutes in plain English and ate granola bars with a lawyer's appetite. At night, I moved the letter copies to a second location and set alerts on every account. The lawyer hired a search specialist with a policy. Make first contact only if the found person consents and only through an intermediary. If Noah wanted a closed life, we would honor that, and I would grieve in a room with the door shut. Probate responded faster than I expected. A notice of hearing in 6 weeks, sooner if urgent equities warranted. Victor's counsel filed an objection laced with moral perfume. The hospital sent a careful, chilly reply. They take all reports seriously and would review policies from 1991, which is to say, they would move as slowly as glaciers learn salsa. The bank froze any changes to Box 312. At home, Ruth stopped playing the metronome and started leaving the lamp on again. I don't want to see the inside of any more lies, she said. Lena asked me if we could keep this private public, her term for truth with curtains. We'll try, I said. But rooms have windows. I photographed the threat, bagged it, and logged the time, temperature, and wind. An unmarked envelope appeared at Ruth's door. 3 words, let it rest. We built a small scaffolding for our days. Ruth saw the therapist twice a week at first and learned to nap without guilt. I stocked her fridge with food that didn't require recipes. Lena made a truth calendar where we marked appointments and rest days in the same ink. Aunt May called every morning at 9 to ask 3 questions. Did you sleep? Did you eat? Did you write anything down? I answered each like a patient earning discharge. The lawyer drafted written boundaries. Victor would have no contact with Ruth without a witness. No financial documents would be moved or destroyed. All communications would be in writing. Any threats would be forwarded to counsel and, if needed, law enforcement. We posted a small camera by the porch light not because we were frightened, but because we were done treating fear like a superstition. The search specialist sent a succinct update, a likely match for Noah based on hospital dates and a private adoption docket in a nearby county. He would send a respectful letter through an intermediary. No surprise visits, no doorstep ambushes, no social media phishing. If the recipient responded, I could write back. If he didn't, I would accept silence like a season and get on with being the person Ruth raised. One evening, Ruth opened the piano and played something slow and unfamiliar, then said, I named you Evan because it sounded like heaven without the H, close enough to wish for, far enough to live with. We sat with that. The metronome stayed in the drawer. Lena held my hand for a full minute like we were children again, and the storm was passing overhead, but not through us. I printed a single page for Victor listing our boundaries and the schedule for the probate hearing. I slid it into a manila envelope and addressed it formally. I set alarms for water and a nightly walk around the block. I moved my phone charger out of the bedroom and put the letter copies in a fireproof bag. I wrote a short list on the fridge titled, When It Gets Loud. Make tea, breathe for 4 counts, read the checklist, call May, sleep. I told myself I could crave answers and still choose kindness with the people I love. At the mailbox, an envelope with no return address waited with my name in block letters. I sat at the kitchen table with the new envelope and the old letter side by side, ink from different years arguing politely. I didn't open the new one yet. Not everything urgent is required. I boiled water and watched the kettle rattle like a small train arriving from a place I'd never been. Ruth dozed in her chair. The lamp made a small halo around the piano. The house felt tired and brave. This is what I have learned that might help someone older than me and kinder than I have been. Use timestamps, not accusations. Photograph corners and staples because people remember differently when scared. Ask clerks their names. Write them down with thanks. Keep probate words simple. Amendment means a change. Correction means a fix. Chain of custody means who touched the paper and when. Save copies like you save phone battery during a storm. Don't post what you can put in an envelope. Eat protein. Walk after you read hard things. Sleep as if tomorrow needs you. About love, it can be true and still be careless with facts. It can be protective and still be selfish. It can raise you and still ask you to stay small. About boundaries, they are not punishments. They are the shape of the room where respect lives. I will protect Ruth's sleep, Lena's optimism, and my own breath. About Noah, if he wants quiet, I will honor it. If he wants coffee, I will bring 2. He is not a headline. He is a person with a daughter who may or may not someday call me uncle or nothing at all. The ledger Uncle Victor worships didn't balance. Ledgers rarely do when they hold people instead of numbers. My job is not to burn the house down to find warmth. My job is to open curtains and keep hands off the matches. I wrote a note for anyone holding proof heavier than anger. Document first. Feel second. Paper stays calm when hearts don't. Ask a neutral witness to sit in the room. Choose therapy before trophies. Record dates in one format. Name files plainly. Pack snacks. Hunger impersonates heartbreak. Leave the porch light on for the part of you still learning. Out the window, sunset washed the piano in color I could not name, and Ruth's breath evened into something ordinary. Before midnight, the porch light flicked once, and steps paused outside our door.